All right, my name is Dr. Lesa Johnson. I am an associate professor of sociology at the University of Illinois at Springfield. I've been here for about 3 years, and I'm heading up a community action research project called Unveiling Black Springfield.
First question, how has representation of Black people in Springfield shaped your life?
Since I've only lived here for 3 years, uh, representation of Black people in Springfield. I really did not know about the riot until I got here, and I did not know that it was associated with the start of the NAACP. I had not even been involved with the NAACP before I got here. So it has shaped a lot of my life here, knowing, Teresa and Austin Randolph and all of the people at Mary Hadley Hall, a lot of people in the NAACP, and going to some of their meetings. That has shaped a lot of my research and what goes on in my life right now, because it seems like right now my research is my life. So yeah, that shaped a lot.
Do you feel there is enough Black representation in the community and county?
It depends on what area you're asking about. In city council, sure. This is one of the few cities in the nation with only a 20% Black population, but that still has 3 Black aldermen in city council. In the county, no, I do not, even though we have like 4, I think, if I can recall, Black representatives in the county. The county is very, very conservative and not in line with marginalized populations in the county. If you're talking about universities, no. For UIS, we only have 3 Black tenured professors at UIS. LLCC, you're doing a little bit better, and that's represented in the Black student involvement, the different, I guess, activities that go on over there. You all have a Juneteenth celebration, a huge Juneteenth celebration. UIS would never think of anything like that. So, yeah, it depends on what you're talking about. In Springfield, a lot of Black people live on the west side, but the west side interests are not geared toward Black people who live on the west side. A lot of Black people live on the east side, and the city constantly ignores the needs of the east side because it has a majority of Black people. So it just depends on what you're asking about. It's a much more nuanced situation that can come with a yes or no answer.
Mm-hmm. What has your experience been like leading an organization centered on unifying the Black youth in Springfield? Have you faced any struggles in this position?
Okay. I don't lead any organizations that center on Black youth in Springfield. My research project actually focuses on Black citizens in the entire population. We have a Black student union here. I'm not a leader of that. We have the Diversity Center, and I'm involved with that quite a bit. But the things that I have been involved with the Diversity Center focus around my gay activity and my gay identity rather than just my Black identity. So, yeah, that's...
How about your research that you've been doing with the citizens in Springfield?
Yeah. I think we've been coming along really well as we get to know more of the people in Springfield. And, this is my office. I'm not usually here during the summer. I have another office in Ward 2, and that's where I am usually in the summer. That's why all my books are gone and everything. It's been really, really, really nice. We have a lot of community activities. I'm a member of the National Alliances of Mental Illness, the Community Health Council. We've had a lot of health initiatives. I'm always at City Council. I have been really, I think the response there has been really, really good.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
What aspects do you focus on when teaching others about Black history?
I focus on, since I'm in this social psychology of social inequality, right? And then I'm into classical theory, sociocultural theory. A lot of what I focus on is bridging the history of Springfield to the current life of Springfield. So Unveiling Black Springfield is investigating redlining and segregation and tying that to the current, right? Disparities, health disparities, economic disparities, right? Vulnerabilities, the social vulnerabilities that are experienced as Black people in Springfield. So when it comes to investigating all of that, I really do try to bridge gaps with this is what the HOLC did in the 1930s. So now we still have redlined districts, even though people don't call those redlined districts, right? This is what the 1908 race riot did. They used to call this area of Springfield the Badlands, right? That still looks like the Badlands. So a lot of my work comes with people want to disassociate between what happened. Oh, we're not those people anymore. Or, when something happens, this isn't who we are. Yeah, it is. This is who you are because you kept it going. Right? Instead of rectifying the entire situation. And then you tried to blame it on the Black people or the people who live there without letting everybody else know that you were actually fomenting alliances and processes and procedures that would leave the same type of inequalities in place over decades, over a century. So that's what I do.
How did you get your start, and how do you give back to your community while doing the work that you love?
Okay, so I guess I got my start. I'm almost 60 years old, so I'm like, which start are you talking about? In sociology, I got my start at Charleston Southern University in Charleston, South Carolina. I was living in Atlanta, and I had flunked out of school like 2 or 3 times, and Charleston Southern was a private school that allowed me to return to school and gave me funding, and I soared there, and I told them what I wanted to do, and they helped me. So then a year later, when my son was about to go to college, they encouraged me to apply to graduate school. And then pushed me along the way. So my focus is really about social support and social networks. And it is because every bit along the way, there have been social supports that were applied to me and social networks that were built for me by others, right? So from Charleston to Nebraska to California to here, there were always people who were following me along the way. And so getting my start, I have no idea, right? Because it's been in the communities that I've been a part of the entire time, all the way back to Atlanta, Georgia.
Was there any particular reason why you decided to come to Springfield?
They gave me a job. I was looking to get out of California because the place that I was in California was not what you think of when you think of California. This was Northern California. It was total red part of California. They were talking about seceding from California because, oh goodness, this was not the California. This was not beaches and, right, this was a lot of agricultural fields and only a 2% Black population. And they treated poor people very badly. And so when it came time for me to get tenure over there, I just really didn't trust that I was going to get it. So I started applying for other jobs, and I got this one, and they seemed to really, really want me here. And I thought, okay, I can go to another blue state, and I can be honest with these people about what I'm experiencing here in Northern California. And they have promised that they will listen to me.
Right.
And so that's what brought me here.
So how do you give back to your community while doing the work that you love?
I listen to my community. Everywhere I go, I listen to the community. I ask them, what's wrong? What do you see are the cracks and crevices in the system? How are your children doing? How is your family doing? What do you not have? What do you need? And then I arrange, wherever I am, I arrange with community members to get them what they need. If I know that I have had network resources, right, then my job, my duty, my calling, whatever, is to use my degree, my research skills to get them what it is that I've had that they haven't had, and figure out why they haven't had it. So I'm always giving back. In California, it was justice for Desmond, a young man who was shot by police up there. Here, it's justice for Sonia, but it's also the residential segregation. There's a larger Black population here than there was when I was in California. There was 2%, here's 20%. So I would have expected to see things progressing so much further here. And lo and behold, I get here and there's no real progression. There's no real difference with a 20% Black population than there was with a 2% Black population, not in real sense. So I give back by working with community members to get their concerns out into the mainstream and try to work through those situations with them. That is what community action or participatory action research is about. It's about solving those problems.
Do you feel that there is anything in Black Springfield that should be reevaluated or revised to be more beneficial while sharing Black stories?
The school system needs to be revisited.
Are you referring to like the school system as a whole, or specifically on the college level?
186 K through 12.
Okay.
We just found out that new businesses, when they come to Springfield, do not pay school taxes, but they want the money of the people who have children in the 186 school district, but they're not willing to support those communities. Now, if the city or the recruiters, the business recruiters like the Springfield Sangamon Growth Alliance, wanted to make deals with new businesses that come to Springfield and say, you don't have to, pay city taxes for 20 years as an incentive to bring you here, then they can say that for city taxes. But to take that money away from schools really creates another detriment to that community, particularly when you're talking about in the 186 school districts, over 60% of the students in the 186 school district are from underfunded families or from families who are living below the poverty line. For the city and the Growth Alliance to make a deal like that, that's what I'm talking about, to provide. That's what I do for communities. And look really deep inside what's going on and then try to figure out, okay, what is it that's systemic and that you're not telling the citizens of your city about that robs them of their access to resources, okay, robs them of their access to network and social support, right? And so the fact that the Sangamon Growth Alliance and the city of Springfield have been making these deals pretty much behind parents' backs creates that segregation. It perpetuates that segregation line. It perpetuates the idea that students don't get the resources that they need to be able to get into college or to get good jobs or to have their reading levels at higher levels as compared to some of the other school districts around here, or compared to the private schools or the Montessori schools, right? It's like the city is yanking away resources from Black and poor communities, while on the front end of it, like all of these smiles and look what we did and we're just doing such a great job. No, you are not. You are depriving your citizens of, access to resources.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what I found in Springfield. And that's just one example. I found several other examples of this, in the transportation, the bus system, so that people on the east side can't get to work. On the fact that people on the east side have to pay like the administration fees for the bus system, but people on the west side don't have to pay for the administration fees for the transportation system, but the people on the west side use the bus system just as much as the Springfield as the east side people do. So those types of inequality are what I'm looking at. And like I said, these are things that people, regular citizens, don't know. I saw your face. They don't know anything about this. They don't know that a system has been designed to deliberately deprive, right, people on a certain side of town of access to resources. And so if the regular people in Springfield don't know that this is what Growth Alliances and City of Springfield and the mayor and all of these other people are doing deliberately, then what is their choice but to think that, oh, those people are poor because they choose to be poor? No, they don't choose to be poor. They're trying to work, do whatever they can, right, to alleviate their own circumstances, but they are alone and they don't even get the same supports that people on the west side get.
Have you faced any prejudice that has impacted your ability to share your stories and those of others?
No, I'm a pretty forceful person. Yeah, I hear all the time. And of course, when people talk about you, you hear what they say. So, like I said, I've only been here 3 years, and the word on the street is, ooh, UIS must not have known who she really was when they hired her. Like, they got a little more than they were, bargaining for. And to a certain extent, I do believe that is true. They didn't know. They could have looked it up. I've been doing this for a long time. I've been fussing and fighting for a very, very long time. But yeah, when I got here, I realized that they didn't really know how big my mouth was, how loud I could get, how I could use my resources. And so they tried to push back, and the mayor tries to push back, and several other people try to push back again without making it look like they're trying to push back, right? Because they don't want to, start an all-out war or whatever. But they try to push back, but it doesn't affect me because you can't scream louder than I can.
I mean, it's important, right?
It's important. And like I said, if the community already knows that I'm doing whatever it is that I'm doing for them, then they back me up.
Right.
And so we have, even when there are members of the community who don't like what I do, they stand back, because those people may or may not be connected to the things that I see, to the things that I'm investigating. So sometimes they're just as surprised as anybody else. And they stay quiet. Right. Right. Yeah, because I back up my facts. I show my evidence. In school, you were like, your math teacher was like, show your work. I show my work. I have a website. I have a Facebook page. I'm letting people know everything, most things that I find out as I find them out. Yeah, I don't get a lot of pushback.
Do you have a special family story that you would like to share?
I was not born into an impoverished family. I had 2 parents. I, have rich uncles and landowning grandparents and all of that stuff. So I was not deprived. But for some reason, when I was very, very young, I got the feeling that my lack of deprivation was what hindered me from understanding the world. I played around in college. I got pregnant instead of getting a degree. I said I flunked out of school 3 times. I had fights with my family. I joined a cult. I was just wild. And I raised my son in poverty, pretty much. Um, but I learned a lot. It was very, very detrimental. Okay, I learned a lot about how the world worked rather than having those Pollyanna pink, eyeglasses, right, in front of your face. And the more I learned raising a child as a single mother in poverty, the angrier I got. Because having had that experience of a loving family and, all the resources at my disposal, and then all of a sudden living this life as a single mother and not having those resources at my disposal, I was like, why is it this way? So when I went to college at the age of 37, right after I'd flunked out so many times, I went back. I was 37 years old, and my son was 13. I was like, okay, we're going to do this whole thing different. And my son gratefully got into college, but he ended up experiencing some of the same poverty that I had experienced. So I learned about intergenerational poverty as I was living it. But I still had those opportunities to study. And then he still had those opportunities to study. So he got his college degree, I got my PhD, and we were off running. He teaches at LLCC, as a matter of fact. He teaches voice over there. And because I understand the supports that my family gives me, right? I understand how class differences occur between people inside of marginalized groups. How Black people can be just as sometimes hateful toward poor Black people as anybody can, right? Hispanic people who have been here for years and years and decades can be just as hateful toward new Hispanic immigrants as anybody can. And so there's these social class cleavages inside of marginal groups. Queer people, right? White male queer people have these serious, right, stereotypes about BIPOC queer people, okay? And those types of images float around inside those groups. And that really taught me a lot about, what questions I need to be asking, what I need to be looking for as far as inequalities are concerned, how I need to understand self-group hatred or intersectional identities or internalized oppression, right? And it puts me at sometimes a disadvantage because then I can't talk to those people because I know, right, I have the research, and you can't go, up to somebody with this, I don't know, like higher than mighty, right, type attitude. You can't. A lot of PhDs are really, really arrogant, right? And I can't afford to be arrogant when I am, talking to members of marginalized communities. I can clap back at other PhDs who think they know it all, right? Even when they are not Black and they are not gay and they are not women, right? And they, have these high and mighty ideas about what Lincoln actually said or whether Lincoln actually loved Black people or not, right? Because I've done my research from a different viewpoint. So, that's sort of what family has been for me, and being able to reunite with my family after I had gone through all of the poverty and all of the single motherhood, and all of a sudden your family loves you again when you looks like you're getting a PhD, right? So that's what family has taught me. Nobody is perfect. Nobody will always be there for you. Oprah Winfrey says nobody's coming to save you. You really, really do have to be self-sufficient and or build your own networks as you go when some of those other networks fall by the wayside.
I think you already answered this a little bit, but how has this story influenced your perspective?
Yeah, I did, definitely. Just from my life experiences, single motherhood, coming out really late. I'm I'm queer. I didn't come out until, actually, I didn't come out until I knew I was getting that PhD. Because there was, a shift in power.
Right.
Yeah. So, finding family, using found family resources, found community resources, getting a thick skin. If you're gonna do this type of work, you gotta be tough. You gotta be willing to take, right, the chastisement and the hatred, which is why now when people clap back, it doesn't bother me, because I was already trained to know that doing this type of work, right, that uncovers different types of inequalities that people have set up deliberately, then, I'm going to have haters. Okay? People are really not going to like me. So all through graduate school, I was trained extensively on protecting my data, standing up and, speaking for myself. When I was in graduate school, Trayvon Martin's mother came to the University of Nebraska with Ben Crump, because he was their family lawyer at the time. And I spent the day with them. My job was to spend the day with them and just make them comfortable until it was time for her to speak. I didn't know anything about anything. And I was nervous and, but I knew that she was a single mother and I was a single mother. She was divorced. I had never been married. I just sat there with her. That's all I did. I was like dumbfounded and I was like starstruck and I didn't know anything. Right? And I got up to speak, and somehow being there with her that day had given me a force in my voice that nobody in even graduate school had heard from me. I was this little mealy mouthed, squeaky, always giggling type of person, because I was afraid to be as angry as I really was. Just spending time with Sabrina Fulton made my voice heavier, made it reverberate more. Like, there are people like me out here. There are people like me with Black sons who are afraid of what is going to happen to their family. And there are people out here who know that killing, Black people is government sanctioned, right? Is a form of state violence. And when I was able to spend that time with her, just everything sort of opened up. Like, this really is almost like a conspiracy theory, right? But it's not known conspiracy theory because the many people who are perpetuating this inequality, they have no idea that they're doing it. Is you can't almost you can't be mad at them. They haven't been taught the education. They haven't been taught the history behind, killing Black people. They haven't been taught how they manufacture the stereotypes. They haven't been taught any of the social psychology behind, why they think that Black people are dirty, or that Black people can't manage money, or that, Black people don't want to work, or that Latin people are, whatever it is that they say they are, or that Asian women are, subservient, or they don't understand how they have developed all of these racist stereotypes. They just know that this is what they know, and nobody can tell them anything different, right? And so then you have to go higher than them, okay? You have to go, who was teaching you this? You have to go higher, like, what government, sanctions this type of behavior? You understand? You have to go, what church are you going to that makes you believe that when you're giving to a Black person, it's charity rather than mutual aid, than sharing, right? You have to go, to all of those institutions and understand a much broader type of history and systems analysis to understand, how are these people so dumb as to think that they didn't create this world themselves? You mean slavery is over? Really? You really think that slavery is over? Oh, it was over 200 years ago. Leave me alone with that. Okay, so if we're not going to do slavery, let's do Jim Crow. Okay, if we're not going to do Jim Crow, let's do, you understand what I'm saying? Let's do, how Clarence Thomas basically rewrote all of the rules around discrimination law, right? You'd have to go back and back and back and keep digging, and a lot of Americans really don't want to do that. They don't have the patience to do it. Right? They don't have the wherewithal to be hit with that type of knowledge and then have to go back and ask, well, why weren't we taught this in high school? Right? It's a hard road to actually learn all of this stuff and to account for what the United States has been doing since its very inception. Okay? It's very, I understand where they're coming from. It is difficult to learn this stuff. And you experience a cognitive dissonance when you do learn it because it's so opposite what those people that you absolutely love have taught you. Your grandmother said this. Your, favorite pastor said another thing. It's mind-blowing to learn this stuff. So I would understand why you would want to outlaw critical race theory, why you would want to outlaw real Black history, because it hurts. It hurts. And nobody wants to experience that type of pain. But the United States will never be what it actually needs to be unless we go through that history, learn it in depth, and try to figure out what we can do to make this a better nation. James Baldwin said, I love America more than any other nation in the world. And precisely for this reason, I will criticize her incessantly. Because you need to make it better. And people need to see the truth. And people need to experience the pain of that truth. So this is going to be a fight for a very long time.
Thank you so much.
Is there anything else you'd like to share?
Oh, no, I've told you a whole lot.
Thank you for participating in LLCC's Honors in Action project.
Sure.